I want to get 10 by 40 tunnel tents so I can grow lots, be part of a farming community to where we can trade back and forth. Give me some chickens, give me some goats. And another essential thing I want to do is I want to keep bees. Bees are very essential to any
Structure of it, the equation of it is production in proximity to its consumption is its greatest asset. Production in proximity to its consumption is its greatest asset. Yeah. So when you build an economic structure based on that model right there alone, it doesn't allow for those outside influences like Monsanto and Walmart and all those others.
The bottom line is the role of government is to facilitate our ability to help ourselves and to empower ourselves. Okay? And if that's not happening, if we're empowering government, it's the absolute opposite. Government is supposed to be empowering us to do for ourselves. So
their supply chains, crashing with the way that the economic, think about this. Let me give you an example. So our inflation right now is at 9%. If you are in another country, first, the 9% inflation for us across the board, goods and food are much higher, 30s in the percentile. So right. If we're sitting here experiencing that now, imagine somebody who is in a third world country exchanging dollars for our good, exchanging their dollars for our dollars. Imagine the inflationary impact it has on a poor country, having to buy from their money, exchange it over to dollars. So their budget's blowed out. We've blowed up every third world country's dollar that is, and that's why you're starting to see Pakistan's fixing to go down. Iran they just overthrew their parliament. Sri Lanka just overthrew their government. Right. On and on and on. Ghana's fixing to overthrow their government. All these are due to economic corruption, right? And economic impact of inflation in America and policies that we're making. So, going from being energy independent to being dependent on all these other countries has weakened the dollar. Printing money through COVID so that we could, make it past not working, having to go to work and making profit. We printed money, which now created the inflation we're in today. It's lowering the value of the dollar all over the world. So we're not the only ones suffering at the cash register. There are literally whole economies failing because of the exchange rate of inflation, inflationary exchange rate.
So like I said, the answer to that question, candidates and all this, the bottom line is you have to, as the people, we have to force, whomever to be accountable, all right, to us, right? Because we are the people, right? And we are the ones that the government is supposed to be serving and not the other way around. We're looking for the government to save us instead of serving us.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely.
The Keystone Pipeline, that was the very first thing that this administration did was to shut that down and take that oil supply away from the U.S. economy. At that moment, that very moment, all of these things I just described to you predestined us to have pestilence and famine.
So explain the Keystone Pipeline. Yeah,
the Keystone Pipeline was a pipeline that President Trump authorized to be able to move oil in and out of the U.S. And so it was a way to take our oil and take it around the world, and also have another way to bring oils from around the world into the U.S. And so because of that, infrastructure that we need it in order to stay independent. Because of that infrastructure project was there, now companies were going to be able to operate around that to extract American oil and fill that pipeline with American oil. So it was stabilizing our energy independence is what that infrastructure project was designed to do.
Man.
So we do that, or I'll go out to the larger local farmers market. That kind of started because my wife wanted to eat tomato sandwiches. So I was like, okay, well, we're getting tomato sandwiches. Oh wow, look here. They got some good looking summer squash and zucchinis and different things. I said to myself, I'm not gonna grow my farm, my garden anymore because I'm going to set that up for my next house. I'm gonna have a homestead. So and like I said, this is an ongoing process. This is not just because of this. This is something that, like Martin said, I see, I have a vision of the future. What if I didn't have, what if I could reduce my grocery bill? Okay, so I grow tomatoes and I can my own tomatoes. It's not that difficult. Just boil them in some water, a little bit of salt, put them in a jar, can them, and they're preserved. You know, make my own pickles. I smoked pickles. All right. See, so like I said,
Dang it, smoked pickles?
yes,
Make
sir.
me hungry.
of of fresh caught um, um, trout the other week, and that's what we had. I did some pan. I didn't do pan seared. I did some baked trout. And it was, and this is straight out, straight out of the
Man,
water. Okay, see, so I didn't have to worry. Now, if it's the water, yeah, but this, clean water sources and things. But that's what I do is I try to incorporate more or go to we have an international market here as well, where you get things that you kohlrabi and all types of different seeds. That's like right now. It's August. Anybody that's thinking about a farm, this is the time when you look at trying to grow your fall vegetables, your root vegetables, collard greens, cabbage, that sort of thing. Another thing I do is I eat for what's available in the season. Okay, like I said, collard greens, cabbage, beets, rutabagas, sweet potatoes, things that are getting ready to be in season in fall. That's what I eat in the fall. And I do this all the time. I don't try to, yeah, it's good to have tomatoes. This is why you can your tomatoes so that you can have tomatoes in the fall. You can have cucumbers and pickles and all of this in the fall because fall is not the time that tomatoes grow. See, so like I said, is you do those types of things. And I think, like I said, is this is the type of stuff that people are gonna have to start doing again. I mean, and I'm gonna get about four. I want to get 10 by 40 tunnel tents so I can grow lots, be part of a farming community to where we can trade back and forth, give me some chickens, give me some goats. And another essential thing I want to do is I want to keep bees. Bees are very essential to any, if
yeah.
you are a farmer, you want to have bees somewhere around
You've
in
been
your
talking
farming
about bees
community.
for as long as I've known you.
Say what?
So you've been talking about doing beekeeping for as long as I know you, man.
Listen.
I
Like
know
I
you
said,
gonna do it.
it takes time and preparation, and I'm educating myself on doing all of this stuff. Getting
Absolutely.
myself physically in shape to be able to do it. Thinking about the land, thinking about what's going to be around it. How am I going to get my bees inside of my tunnel tent so they can go ahead and pollinate all of my vegetables and
Don't have to worry
things.
about that.
You know,
It's a small portion of it, though. I mean,
Yeah,
we've been talking about that forever. It's not that it isn't a valued solution, but
yeah.
in a famine, you better know where to get what and how to get it, and try to secure that for the time you need it next. And we're in a place right now, I believe, that the integration, the infrastructure locally is the most important asset that we have the ability. I mean, just like what Leonard was telling you about it, that asset locally that he has a connection to is there, but it's only fragile. It's from noon to 8 o'clock to noon, 2 days a week. That's pretty fragile connection. We've got to create the greater infrastructure, and we're doing that as a company. That's what we've been focused on my whole career.
You know, is
Education transportation,
Right.
dictate that shelf life. How long is it going to be on a shelf? How far does it have to travel to get there? All of
Right.
those things are factors in the amount of profit that has to be generated, as well as, the securities, the liability risk of contamination. And I mean, there's just so much that the current supply chain transfers that cost that you can avoid working locally. There are a lot of issues with that right now, though, because we have, it takes 8 months right now to get a hog slaughtered. If you
Right.
have a hog right now that you are raising, you have got to have a date before you have the hog
Right.
to
Right.
have it
Right.
slaughtered, because of the bottleneck of not enough slaughter houses.
I
So
think here when I was down, when I was
Uh,
working down east.
can we still take seeds and put them in between a a brown paper towel like we did as kids, and
Styrofoam, yeah,
let them sprout, and then drop them in the soil?
and the dirt.
yeah,
Yeah.
so let me absolutely, and that's one of the things you talking about GMO and non-GMO. One of the things that Monsanto does is makes a seed that doesn't have a plant that will not produce the seed that will grow again. So there's
Right.
heirloom seeds, and then there's genetically modified
Right.
seeds that are out there. So you want to make that the fruit will be able to reproduce fruit, and that's how God intended it to happen. And so the seed. What a couple of things I'd also tell you, if I was preparing right now, say Martin, he just got zapped and now he's in the inner city, living in that space. I would be, for every person in my household, I would be looking for at least 6 canned goods per person per
Mm,
day. So if
mm.
I reason for 6 is because one you can, if you have that many, you can spread 6 out over 3 or 4 days. So if you have to extend the time that you don't have access to food because of maybe there's a trucker strike and all of a sudden truckers aren't coming into your
Right.
city, or maybe there's another outbreak in something that locks down the country. And we can't say, oh, that's Martin, you're being real pessimistic. No, I'm telling you things that could happen and have already happened.
Yeah,
And
I
so,
mean, these are things that we've
regardless
seen.
if we're prepared for it. And so, because I believe in the word is told us, God's never created chaos. He's always created order. And, when he says these things are happening, I can see them. And I know Leonard and I believe your viewers can start to see, if not have already been seeing, this economic collapse, the crisis in corruption, the crisis in production and manufacturing. So, I think it's going to happen regardless of us, whether we're prepared, but being prepared for, like I said, 6 canned goods per person per day gives
I
you the
think
chance.
that's a detriment right there. 6 canned goods per person per day, folks. You need to stock up.
And the other thing about that, and the reason for that is you'll have some to share to people who will defend that stock. Because if you're having to defend it yourself, then you got to sleep sometime, and you've got to, things have got to happen. And so tactically, it gives you a chance to spread that in a way to defend the supply. The other thing I would say is rice, beans. Those two things are staples that you can never have too much of.
Right.
Ever have too much of those to be able to share and to defend your family and as a community. If your community has those staples, rice and beans amongst
Beans.
themselves, you're going to be okay if
Right.
enough of you have it.
Right. 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 Especially like I said, rice and beans. Yeah, because you can dry them out. It's they preserve really well. Because that was the next crop. Because I've grown okra, squash, peppers, tomatoes, cucumbers,
With
zucchini.
your community. Second of all, talk to your families, each one of you.
Right.
Talk to your families in a way that says, let me give you another viewpoint. And in that viewpoint, they're going to ask you, well, who's doing that? Point them our way to our farmers. Our farmers, if you're local, listen to me, in the Mississippi Ohio River Valley, if you're local and you're aware of this conversation and this need, then reach out to us, United Global Co-Opportunities. My uh, email address is martin@kyregistered.com. Martin@kyregistered.com. You can email me, call me. My cell phone number, I'll give it to you direct, is 502-320-1952. If you've got a consciousness because of this conversation, or for you have a God-given you gift to view things in the future and want to be a part of the expansion, it's simple as reaching out and then allowing the infrastructure to develop between your purchase and the production locally. And we're gonna link that for you and be able to help you access that, such that you're not going to be tactically unaware, and also with the securities that you're going to have locally by a farmer who says, no matter what the economy is, I know that you are my customer, and I'm going to protect, I'm going to process for you, I'm going to grow for you, and now you're going to limit that security that those around you have. And
Right.
doing that, eliminating that for you, and leading others to have them be able to eliminate that for them, is exactly what has to be done in order for us to get beyond this limitation that currently exists in the supply chain.
And you said that was that the 1952 number?
Yeah, go ahead and give them my cell number, my personal cell phone number. And the reason why I do that is because this isn't a big corporate, holy moly, no, this is farmers working directly with you. The job of our corporation is to make that connection and set up the logistics between the farm and the consumer. And that's what we do. And that's what we're doing in Louisville and focused on doing in the whole Mississippi Ohio River Valley.
Awesome.
Water at an incredibly low energy consumption. I think cheaper than groundwater by far. Cheaper than desalination.
So far, 12 of these AWGs exist. West planted them in 3 areas, including the Bahamas, Puerto Rico, and Flint, Michigan.
I need to engage with the people here, and I need to show them what this machine does, and they need to understand that it is their machine, and I am here for them.
West says his AWGs are federally approved, and the water quality is also tested by the Colorado Water Authority.
It's clean. It's good enough to drink. No bacteria or anything in it. And the reason that we go through the filtration process, so as soon as you turn it on, it starts making water.
You may be wondering how these atmospheric generators are tied to Wisconsin.
Most of West AWGs were manufactured right here in Manitowoc.
And the people of Manitowoc should be proud. Just one unit provides a city with hundreds of gallons of clean water. The best part, it doesn't cost residents a penny. West works with organizations like the Water Rescue Foundation to cover the cost. So far, the response in the community has exceeded his expectations.
They were very happy that somebody actually cared enough for them to come to jump over the bureaucracy, come to a private piece of land and do this thing.
Right now, his priority is planting these AWGs in Flint, helping our neighbors here in the Midwest. In Manitowoc, Michelle London, Spectrum News.
That's part of it. I mean, we definitely have droughts all over the world. I mean, happening right now. I mean, some of the most extreme recorded weather droughts in history is happening right as we speak. So, that technology is definitely not one to be underestimated in its potential by far. I mean, imagine if you have a watering, you're in Colorado and you've got a greenhouse and you can't, because of the water restrictions there, you can't, use groundwater. You can't collect water, whatever, what have you. You can put that in the systems and water your greenhouses, not having any federal restrictions associated to humidity in the air. So it shouldn't be. I think that technology should be looked at for many other applications outside of just supplying water.
Do you think that what's happening right now is intentional?
I'm thinking what's happened now is what Jimmy Carter said it best like this. I think I'm going to answer it like this. He said the day that we allowed corporations to have the same or greater value than the individual was the day that basically America ceased to exist the way we know it. Knew it then. And so corporations, I'm not hating on corporations. I'm hating on the outcomes of the choices that we consumers have made. We're woke now. Okay, what does that mean?
I'm hating on the integrity of corporations, of some of these corporations. I'm hating on the heart that they are not putting in. I'm hating on the compassion that they don't have. I will
Cap- Capitalism by nature promotes that. It creates institutions of greed. And so greed is not a very compassionate.
can create institutions of greed, right? But I mean,
Oh, you
I have
can. So that's why I created a, if you look me up and you can Google me, Martin Smith, and the work that I did with the Center for Economic and Social Justice. But I wanted to create an economic structure. There's three structures. You'll recognize them: communism, capitalism, and socialism. Capitalism, like I said, creates institutions of greed, and greed is a vice to human beings. Socialism and communism create institutions of envy, and envy is a vice to human beings. I wanted to create an economic structure that would be able to create a virtue, would be able to be applied towards the virtuous side of the human experience. And so I created productionism. And what production, being able to be productive is, and be able to produce more than you can consume is, and be able to use that to strengthen the community around you is a virtuous task. Like you said, a heart, centered, correct, motivated mindset. So I wanted to keep it in that vein. So productionism, the economic structure of it, the equation of it is production in proximity to its consumption is its greatest asset. Production in proximity to its consumption is its greatest asset. Yeah. So when you build an economic structure based on that model right there alone, it doesn't allow for those outside influences like Monsanto and Walmart and all those others to penetrate that security that the economy is seeking as a virtuous. They don't want a greed-based economy. They want a virtuous based economy. And once given that opportunity locally, then they don't want to choose something else that's going to make them subject to the economy.
Absolutely. And if anybody wants to look it up, you can go out there and just Google Martin Smith Center for Economic and Social Justice.